Hungry Trilobyte podcast would like to start by acknowledging these fine conventions. SoonerCon, Oklahoma's longest-running pop culture convention, is ready to return in 2023. SoonerCon 31 will be held in Norman, Oklahoma on June 30th through July 2nd, 2023. Gaming, cosplay, autographs, and an art auction await. Visit SoonerCon.com for more details. The Hellmouth Convention, where fandoms bleed together. Evoking the center of the mystical convergence, our event includes fandoms and travelers from all over the world. Like the Hellmouth itself, things gravitate toward it that you might not find elsewhere. The celebration is scheduled for June 9th through 11th, 2023 in Los Angeles, California. Go to thehellmouth.org to plan your visit.
On tap today, we have Katie Leigh. How are you doing this fine day?
Hey, Aaron, I'm great. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. I'm excited to talk to you here because I think that you might be one of those people where you can get to know a total stranger well just by where they know your work from.
Okay.
I'll confess my bias. I know you mostly from Ghostbusters and from Gummi Bears, but mostly because you were young Han Solo in Star Wars Padawan Menace, a short film that I have watched over and over again.
That's so cool. But my name's not Ian, it's Han.
Exactly.
Han Solo. Yeah. It's so funny because I was in Las Vegas this weekend at a toy and collectible show. And I met some people from England who were big Star Wars, and they said they love that one the best. I don't always meet a lot of people who remember it because there's the whole other Star Wars Lego thing, but that was a different company that did it. We were the first one, and it was a Cartoon Network special, and it's really funny.
It was clever, and that's just the tip of the iceberg as to what you've done. You have a resume as long as the street here, but that's just what somebody finds you in is really where I can get to start there. And that's kind of where I wanted to start the conversation is when you have voice actors who have such an extensive resume, why do they not get as much recognition? Because I feel like it's only very recently that we started treating voice actors with the respect that they deserve.
Well, social media has changed a lot of our relevance and our presence. I mean, what I'm trying to say is recognition,
Mhm.
because when I started in the 80s, it was a wonderful thing to be able to have a career doing the stuff we did and not be recognizable. We didn't need it. We're more a little bit on the shyer side, I guess. Not everybody,
Mhm.
but it was great to be able we didn't have to worry about people recognizing us anywhere we went. And living in LA, that can be an issue because there's a lot of celebrities here.
Sure.
So, to be able to go to the market or raise your kids and just have your normal life. That's why I think voice actors are more normal. But now with social Facebook and Instagram, people know what we look like. And so, things become a little bit more popularized. I think that, and also the thing is, so many celebrities have been doing voiceovers for movies and things. And so the studios push that to try to get people to come see their work. So I think that even though there are a lot of, lunchbox carrying voice actors like myself, who I just read a statistic. I think 7% of voice actors actually make over $8,000 a year.
Wow.
So, and they call themselves professionals, but there are a lot of working professionals who work all the time. Thank God I'm one of them. But a lot of the stuff we do is, incidental, or unless you're starring in something, really major, people don't really pay much attention, or, you're not a celebrity. People like the Animaniacs cast, that's huge, and they've been doing traveling shows, and so people kind of know who they are. Um, Let me see if I'm really answering your question,
Oh, I
but
think so, for sure.
I think that the celebrity stuff has made voice acting more of a recognizable career, and people, follow. In conventions too. Now we get to go to conventions. So when I do, I meet people that know my work, and that's always fun. And oh, I know the other thing I was going to say is quite a lot of the stuff I've done isn't visible anymore because Disney Studios bought Marvel Productions, and a lot of the shows I did for years were on Marvel. Disney also owns Gummi Bears and Darkwing Duck that they just put out on Disney Plus, but all that stuff wasn't. I know Gummi Bears wasn't available in the full all their episodes on DVD. I still don't think they are, but Disney put it on Disney Plus, so now that's more noticeable. My Little Pony was Marvel Studios, the original series. I did, that was pretty cool, but that's not available. The original Muppet Babies Disney owns. They don't put it out. There's what other shows? Yeah. So that's part of it. Even Dumbo's Circus, which was original Disney Channel show, and I did Dumbo's voice. That's kind of outdated, so they don't show that anymore.
It was a very clever show, and I think it's kind of a shame that if we can't see Dumbo Circus, shows like it should be out, where the combination of puppeteering and live action, it's got a very nice charm to it that I think is not lost on any kid today.
Well, it's simple, it's more of a little Mr. Rogers Neighborhood kind of vibe to that. But I actually think Disney doesn't have the tapes because the company that produced it had all the tapes and Disney didn't want it. They said they didn't have space to hold on to it. I know this from, I do a YouTube show myself. I'll tell you later. And I started it with the late, great Will Ryan. And Will was very close with the people who did Dumbo Circus because he was in Welcome to Pooh Corner. He was in Dumbo Circus, and he wrote songs and he wrote scripts, and he was close with the producers. And they asked him, "Do you want any of these tapes? We're not going to pay for the storage anymore, and Disney doesn't want them." So it's probably just isn't available to put on the air anymore. I don't know.
Jeez.
Yeah. So there you go. There's a little business history.
Well, and actually, that is exactly I was going to bring up your show anyway. Again, you said your show. I'll tell you later.
It's just tell you later. Tell you later show.
But what I love about that is that if you're somebody like myself who really thrives on seeing how these things get put together and seeing how different creative people sometimes have to react to the industry, your show is a treasure trove for that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we thought it was too. I mean, between Will and myself, and he's been, a singer, musician, writer, so much he knows, and he was just like a vault of trivia. So, stuff that most people don't know, we got to just sort of chat about and share about. Well, our motto is where you learn so much about so little, and vice versa. So yeah, I thank you. We tried to bring on, and I'm still doing the show by myself. It's not quite the same, but I'd like to bring on people that have information that most people don't know about or can share their experience. And yeah, it's not totally all entertainment anymore, because I actually have an interview coming up with a blind cognitive neuroscientist.
So. Oh, wow.
It's kind of, but she was a fan of the radio show that I've been on for 35 years called Adventures in Odyssey. So that's how I met her.
And that's kind of why I wish that people were more people had more recognition when it comes to voice acting, because I tell somebody, hey, I'm about to talk to somebody who was on Darkwing Duck, and their eyes light up even before I tell them what character it is. It's just like, oh, that show made me so happy. That show has such good memories. I had such great ideas because of that show. I went home and I drew stuff, and people have that connection, and they should have the connection with the people that are responsible for it.
Well, I just did a voice on this show. I was just Tucker Muddlefoot's voice. I didn't write it, and I didn't produce it. So it just, we go in, we do our work. We don't really know the effect that it has on anybody till 20 or 30 years later when they're grown up and they can tell us about it. So I'm just really thankful that I'm still alive and get to hear all these great stories. Because, if you were 6 years old at the time, or 8 or 10 even, I'm not probably going to hear from you, right? Yeah, it's a wonderful thing. I experienced that, like I said, this weekend at the show in Las Vegas. Just absolute delight when people meet. But when you're a kid, you don't think about who's doing the voices. There's this big time delay, right? You're
Hmm.
not, people our age, your age, aren't watching cartoons right now, probably, or they might be, and now they're thinking about it. But when you're younger, you don't. You're just, even little kids, they can't tell the difference. That to them, those are real characters when that's their voices, and nobody thinks about the voice actors.
True. And I admit there's a little bit of guilt on my part, because when I was a kid and the credits would roll, I would immediately tune out and go do something else. And now I'm going back to the shows I liked then and the shows I like now. And it's like I stop every credits and I'm like saying, okay, who did this and what's, because I'm fascinated by the fact that this was somebody's day job, whether it was something they did for a paycheck or something that was their life's work and calling. I want to know either way. And I find
Well,
that.
and don't forget, if you look at old credits, they didn't say what voices we did. It just had the cast. So you actually would have no idea who voiced what.
Nope. And you do sound like you have a great appreciation for the way things were at the time and the advantages that your anonymity gave you. You're definitely saying there was a value in that we might have lost today.
Yeah, because I feel a lot of pressure to let people know I'm still alive by posting things. And, there's a different vibe now. I have to actually, I hire somebody to help me because I'm not, I'm busy, and I
Mhm.
and I don't always think about what to share, or my skills aren't that good. I'm working on it. But yeah, I mean, even when Will and I created Tell You Later, it was during COVID, so there was a lot of restrictions going to the studio and whatnot. But we thought, well, this will be a great opportunity for people to see how we are together, and maybe we'll get booked at more conventions or something. So there's a PR, I guess, value to that sort of thing that we didn't need before. There was also different way of getting work back then, because our agents had relationships with studios and producers, and we would get phone calls that said, we have a job for you, go over here. It wasn't the auditioning process that we have to do now. It was a little different. So, yeah, I guess, it was different. It was different. It was different back in the day, 40 years ago. But yeah, so we want to stay current. We enjoy, when I first made my Facebook page, it was just to connect with family and friends, and then people started finding it, I guess, or I posted. I don't know what happened, but that was all I had. And I thought, oh, I think I need a professional page, so and people don't, you know, and you kind of curate what people get to see. But who else
Mhm.
wants to, you don't want to share all your family pictures with strangers. So then it kind of necessitated that. And then Instagram, oh, this is where everybody looks for stuff. And you want to let people know if you're going to be traveling somewhere. That's the way people get their information. So it kind of requires an involvement that we didn't have before. And makeup.
There is that.
Makeup. Yeah,
But you're seeming to enjoy the con circuit, and
I
that's a
love it.
yeah, isn't it? It's wonderful just to get together for a party of people who all enjoy the same thing, who have that common bond. Whether it's something that was out last year or 40 years ago, it's like it's fresh for everybody for at least one weekend.
Well, and first of all, I love traveling. I like to see places I haven't been before. It's it's so heartwarming to see people's reaction when they do meet you and realize, no, these photos on my table are not things I drew. They're characters I voiced. Because a lot of times there's that disconnect. They don't know why you're
Sure.
there because they don't put my face to the characters. And then when they realize it, just to see that reaction. And the truth is, I'm in my home studio right now talking to you. And we don't work together as much as we used to. So there's the fact of getting together with people that we don't see very often and people we worked with in the past that we haven't seen in a long time. So there's this, you're right, it's like a family reunion every time you go to a convention. And I feel like fans are like family. So I just love meeting people and seeing old faces. So there's so many good things about conventions.
There are a couple dozen people out there, and you know who you are. I'm just saying, who I will meet them at conventions, and it will sometimes be 2 or 3 different conventions throughout the year. And that's just how we keep in touch. That's just what we do.
Hmm.
And there's a couple people on the other side of the table too, who I just continually look forward to seeing because it's just a good way to keep in touch. And I'm glad we have this culture now that we didn't 20 years ago.
Right. Well, I mean, you're in different cities, so you're going to see those people who live in those cities or who can drive to those places. Even the people who work the conventions who help us, I only see them when I go there. So that's really nice. I think I'm going to be doing a Funko Pop, a signing at a Funko Pop store in Atlanta on the 26th of March. So I mean, we'll see. I have a Sunny Gummy Funko Pop, although they vaulted it, so I have some I'll be able to bring, and hopefully people have some stuff there. But it's just such a great way to connect with people. Like I said, when you go to work and you record stuff, you don't really know who the audience is, and then when you get to meet them, it sort of completes the circuit.
It does. And I feel like when a lot of the shows we're talking about were new, there was much more of a closed box production process where you just went in, you made your thing, you went on, and it was very difficult to bring back the reaction, if there even was a reaction. And the reaction that we ended up getting was huge. These things were in Happy Meals and on bed sheets, and I mean that's when you put that kind of joy in somebody's life, you deserve to get a little something back out too.
Well, that's really sweet. I appreciate. Well, and don't forget, I mean, when I started, it took at least maybe 3 to 6 months to produce the product. Maybe we started recording in usually April or May, used to be when it was like the new season to record cartoons. Now there's no season because there's so many channels. There's just people put stuff up whenever they want to, but there used to be an actual season. And we do start in May and then they'd end up coming on in September. So they had like a 6 month delay. It's not quite as immediate. And I mean, everything was hand painted when I started too. Now there's all,
Mhm.
you know, um, what do you call it? Computer
Yeah,
art.
CGI, yeah.
Not even CGI. What's the name? They just use computers to animate anymore. And I can't
Um,
think of the name. My brain left for a minute.
Cell shading, or I
I don't know.
I always
We
just call
didn't
it
have computers. There
no.
weren't even computers. So there you go. Now, so everything's a little bit quicker, right? The fact that I can work from home and dub cartoons from here, I can record my stuff from here is remarkable. And it's a great thing. It's just a little isolating.
So is there kind of an understanding that as a voice actor, you're going to have a fully professional home studio? Is that just the industry
Yes,
standard at this
starting
point?
now. Yep. Starting now, you better do it. Yeah.
And there's
Unless you're a celebrity, uh,
sure,
and you could go to the studio, but studios are even shipping the equipment to people so they can do their stuff from home.
and they have confidence that your setup is going to be sufficiently noise free, that
Well, they make it work. I mean,
ah
I know my studio is good,
sure,
but
sure.
other people who are kind of new to it, but I kind of had a leg up during COVID because I've had this studio for at least 10 years. So I already knew what I was doing. I was equipped to connect. And that was, really helpful.
It's you can do as much as you can on your end, and the neighbor's leaf blower is going to throw it all to the four winds.
Well, there's that. Sometimes we'd have to pause for airplanes or trains, but you know what? That's a small price to pay. Even when you're in the studio, things happen, where there could be disruptions. So, they're still not paying necessarily to rent the studio. They're saving money that way. And we're saving drive time. Like I said, I live in LA and I can't get anywhere in less than an hour. So, that part is nice. And there is, sometimes I have to be my own engineer and I'll send the recorded files to people, but there's a way for the studio on the other end to get the feed and adjust and get what they need on their end without me having to do much, and that's wonderful.
That makes sense. Makes sense a lot. So if somebody is looking to be an up and coming voice actor, or even just an actor in general, what would you tell them?
Well, I would say take improv lessons. Definitely. Improvisational acting is like pretty key to animation. Take one of my classes, go to my website. But also, there's just so much information on the internet that you can access for free to get started, to find a coach. You need a demo usually to get, it's like a model's portfolio. You need a voice demo to get an agent if you want an agent. But also, there are several conventions, speaking of conventions, voiceover conventions that happen all year round. And those are just a wealth of information that you can get in a weekend, and not just get the information, but actually make physical contact with people, make friends, create a network. I think networking is super important.
Now, see, that's interesting because I'd seen that you were involved in voice acting conventions here and there.
Mhm.
But when I saw that, I thought, man, that's great for people who are established and who can make contacts. It's like, no, if it's open to people who just have an interest,
Oh,
that's a
yeah,
game changer.
totally. Because you get to hear panels of everything about the business. You can go to breakout sessions and learn information. You can learn technical stuff about a home studio. You meet people from your area who you may, create a meetup group with later on or something. No, it's not just for professionals. I mean, at all. I really recommend going, because you think about it, if you can, like, I just talked to somebody the other day who lives in Atlanta. I'm like, dude, you live in Atlanta. Pay whatever, what is it, $400, which you pay for a course anyway.
Hmm.
Go for 3 days and just download all this information and feel the vibe of what it is to be a voice actor. See if that's what you want to do, and meet. It's like when you go to conventions, back in the day, even San Diego Comic-Con wasn't that big, and my son would go, he was 16, and he'd get to talk to the directors that he liked because they
Hmm.
were there, and after their panel, he could go up and talk to them. Well, the same is true for the voiceover conventions. If you want to do promo work and they do a panel, you can find that guy at lunch who and ask more questions, or they even take questions and answers when we do panels. So it's VO Atlanta is very huge. They expect about 700 people there, but there
Oh,
are even
wow.
smaller ones. Yeah. My friend Lisa Big's doing one for women next January 2024, and it's like 100 women, that's all. And that's a great way to make friends. I really like the smaller ones. One Voice conference is going to be in Dallas in August, and well, when I went the first time, they limited it to 200. I think so. I don't know if it's going to be probably smaller still than Voiceover Atlanta. So, yeah, I mean, it's just a great way to get started, in my opinion.
Oh, wow. That is really great. It's a game changer. I'm going to look into that because I would never consider myself a voice actor, but I'm a podcaster. I make my projects with microphones, so I think there's enough crossover there that I would get something out of it.
Yeah, I mean, it leaves guests for your show.
Sure.
But no, yeah, I mean, it's maybe I know there are podcaster conventions
There
too.
are those too, and they are on my calendar for sure.
Yeah, so I think you'd learn a lot and maybe help think of the questions you might want to ask people. But yeah, I mean they cover everything: promo, audiobooks, home studios, agents are there on
Hmm.
panels. Just it's a great source of information.
I, and yeah, you do a lot as far as you mentioned you had a course. The fact that you're reaching out and trying to help others as well, trying to help them hone their skills, that's a great way to give back to the industry.
Well, and there's a lot of actors who do. When I wasn't going to do that originally because I thought, oh, there's so many people who teach, and I started watching, listening to some of my friends who also do, who are coaching, and we all say the same thing pretty much, but in different ways. So, just like when you go to church, you might hear a message and it doesn't really resonate. And then you hear somebody else talk about it and oh, you finally get it. So, there are lots of coaches out there and most of them are excellent. You just find who, and you're always going to get something from somebody. I had to free myself from saying I'm responsible for this person's career. I can only share what I know and hopefully it'll help them. So we also run a Friday morning workout group through a website called VO Heaven, and it's just people who are more professional but want to work on their animation skills, and we take turns directing each other, and it's super inexpensive. It's like $35 for the month every
Oh,
Friday.
wow.
Yeah. So it is, we've always been a real supportive group of actors, and like I said, I think voice actors are the best group of people in the world. Best, yeah. We're just a little bit more down to earth, even though we do have to do all the social media stuff, etc. It's not like being on camera. There's a lot of pressure there.
Sure. Sure.
Or
Well,
as a face actor, as Will used to call
well,
them.
well, Katie, I want to thank you so much for being here. I want to thank you for doing this because I've truly enjoyed talking with you here. And I want to make sure that anybody listening can follow you on the internet and follow your adventures.
Okay.
So I'm going to put everything in the show notes on my website, aaronbossig.com. What is your social media and your website?
Well, my website is katieleigh.com. It's KATIELEIGH. I don't know why the I's and E's are reversed in both my names. Will had to point that out one day. KatieLeigh.com or voiceofyourchildhood.com is also a domain name. So there's a lot of info there. Tell You Later is on YouTube. It's also a Patreon supported show, and I just so thankful for the people who've helped keep us going. They're like family to us too, and they get lots of benefits and bonus stuff. And I think Instagram is Katie Leigh VO. So they can find me on Instagram too and Facebook, Katie Leigh VO. And that's enough, right?
Absolutely. I will make sure all that gets in the show notes. Katie, thank you so much. I'd be glad to have you back anytime.
It's so nice meeting you. Have a
Nice meeting you.
great day.